Breaking news from the NFL, the Las Vegas Raiders are facing a major challenge that could shake their entire defensive strategy this season. A critical piece of their defensive line may be sidelined. And no one, not even the insiders, knows exactly when he'll return. Is this the moment everything changes for the Raiders? Stay with us. There's growing uncertainty swirling around the status of Las Vegas Raiders defensive tackle Christian Wilkins. Whispers are getting louder. Will he be out for just a few weeks? Will it stretch into half the season? Or worst case scenario, will he miss the entire year? At this point, no one, not even inside the organization, has a concrete answer. But what we do know is this: the Raiders will need to be ready to adapt, and fast. Now, before we dive deeper into this developing story, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, hit that like button, and smash the bell icon so you never miss a major NFL update like this one. Now, let's get back to the news. Losing Wilkins, even for a short stretch, would be a major blow to the Raiders' defensive identity. This isn't just about missing a star, it's about losing a player who is supposed to anchor the middle of that line. But here's the twist: there's someone quietly waiting in the wings, a name not mentioned in every headline, but one that truly matters. That man is Adam Butler. Often overlooked, Butler might be one of the most important pieces of the Raiders' contingency plan. And here's why: he was instrumental in turning around the Raiders' defense in the second half of 2023, a period where Las Vegas was statistically one of the best defensive units in the league. In fact, 4 of Butler's 5 sacks came during that surge, showcasing his ability to pressure the quarterback from the interior. His return this season couldn't be more perfectly timed. The Raiders have a chance to survive this blow. With Butler stepping up and other role players adjusting to new responsibilities, this defense might surprise a few people, even with Wilkins sidelined. But make no mistake, the situation is serious. And as we wait for updates on Wilkins' timeline, the question remains: can this team stay dominant without its most impactful interior lineman? We'll keep you posted as more details emerge. One of the most underrated stabilizers of the Raiders' defense last season, Adam Butler. When Christian Wilkins went down, panic could have set in, but Butler quietly became the anchor the team desperately needed. All 5 of his sacks came in the second half of the season, a stretch where Las Vegas transformed into one of the toughest defensive units in the league. And here's the interesting part: this isn't new for Butler. For the second year in a row, he turned up the intensity right when it mattered most, when the pressure was highest and the margin for error was razor thin. This guy has built a reputation for finishing seasons strong, and that's a quality you can't teach. He came into the league known for his pass rush ability, and while run defense was once a weakness, he's clearly elevated that part of his game too. The growth is real, and it's showing up on film. But let's be honest, replacing someone like Wilkins is not a one-man job. This defense is going to need more than just one player stepping up. So who else could fill the void? Look no further than Tyree Wilson. Yeah, you remember the name, 2023 first-round pick, selected 7th overall for a reason. The physical traits alone are jaw-dropping. We're talking about a 6'6", 280-pound defensive monster with arms that stretch nearly 36 inches. He's a rare blend of length, size, and agility, and he's just scratching the surface. What makes Wilson even more valuable right now? His versatility. He's not locked into one position. The Raiders have already been rotating him into the interior, and with Wilkins out, that inside presence is exactly where they need him most. And when a guy with that kind of wingspan gets inside leverage, it's a nightmare for opposing guards and centers. He can disrupt the line of scrimmage, collapse pockets, and create pressure in places quarterbacks hate to feel it, right up the middle. This might just be Wilson's breakout moment, the turning point that defines his early career. Between Butler's experience and poise and Wilson's raw athletic power, the Raiders have a shot at holding the line without their star. But the clock is ticking, and how quickly these players adapt could define the first half of the Raiders season. When it comes to disrupting plays in the trenches, length matters, and Tyree Wilson's arm length is no joke. His reach gives him an immediate advantage over most interior linemen, who typically operate with much shorter arms. That wingspan isn't just for show, it's a weapon, both against the run and when collapsing the pocket on passing downs. But here's the honest truth: Wilson hasn't quite put it all together yet. His rookie season was basically lost before it began. Coming off surgery, he wasn't expected to see much of the field, but circumstances forced him in. And what we saw? A player out of sync, not in game shape, and clearly not ready to make an impact. It was a rough introduction. Last year, better. He showed flashes, moments of what made him a top 10 pick. But it still wasn't the full breakout that Raiders fans were hoping for. That's what makes this third year so crucial. This is the season that could define who Tyree Wilson becomes in the NFL. And he's stepping into a system that just might be perfect for him. So what does this defense actually look like heading into the season? Expect the Raiders to lean on a variation of the 4-3 under, a front that allows their stars to do what they do best, attack. Sure, there may be some new wrinkles, but don't expect them to drift too far from this as their core identity. It's a proven formula, especially under the guidance of defensive-minded leadership. In this alignment, Malcolm Koonce likely plays the Leo role, tasked with flying off the edge and applying constant pressure. On the opposite side, you've got Max Crosby, who thrives as the strong side force, pinning tackles back and crashing into the pocket. At nose tackle, John Jenkins or Leki Fotu provides the interior bulk. And if Christian Wilkins were healthy, he'd rotate between the disruptive 3 technique and a more controlled 4 technique role, depending on the situation. But with Wilkins out, all eyes shift back to Tyree Wilson and where he fits in. Based on what we've seen, his best shot might be as a 4 technique defensive end. Why? Because while he's powerful and long, he doesn't fire off the snap with the quick twitch explosiveness you'd expect from a true 3 technique penetrator. At the 4 tech, he can use his frame to engage blockers head-on, lock out with those long arms, and control gaps. It's a more physical role, a dirty work position. But it might be exactly what he needs to turn potential into production. If Wilson can settle into that role and start making plays consistently, the Raiders might just find a way to thrive, even with Wilkins sidelined. And if that happens, this defensive front could still become one of the most punishing units in the AFC. When it comes to filling Christian Wilkins' role, Adam Butler stands out as the most reliable option. He's not just a stopgap, he's a smart fit. While Butler has the explosiveness to play as a 3 technique, he also brings the length and strength to handle 2 gap responsibilities when needed. His ability to anchor against the run was one of the bright spots in last season's defensive resurgence, and the tape proves it. He doesn't just hold the line, he moves it. In base sets, expect Butler to handle Wilkins' duties. But when the Raiders shift into their sub-packages, and in today's NFL, that's where they'll spend most of their time, the picture changes. That's when things get exciting. Tyree Wilson slides inside, using his length and power to attack interior gaps, while Max Crosby and Malcolm Koonce explode off the edges. This trio could become a devastating pass rush unit if Wilson rises to the moment. Now let's talk about the rookies. Yes, the Raiders brought in fresh talent, but this defense won't rely on unproven prospects in the trenches, not yet. The real expectations are placed elsewhere. Skill positions like running back Ashton Genty, wide receiver Dante Thornton, and cornerback Darian Porter may get opportunities to contribute early. There's even a possibility that guard Caleb Johnson earns reps. But when it comes to replicating Wilkins' impact up front, that's not where the hope lies. JJ, Pahulu, and Nesta Jade Silvera, while promising, are developmental players at this stage. And frankly, very few teams in the league have someone who can do what Wilkins does. His blend of size, agility, and technique is rare. That's why his absence hurts so much. But here's the upside. Butler has already shown he can absorb some of that pressure, and if Wilson makes a leap in year 3, this defense could not only survive, it could thrive. There's a path forward here. It won't be easy. It will demand adaptability, discipline, and a breakout moment from one of the Raiders' most physically gifted defenders. But it's possible. And if this unit pulls it off, we'll look back at this stretch as the moment the Raiders' defense proved its depth and its resilience. The truth is, there's no one-for-one replacement for Christian Wilkins, and the Raiders know that. But what separates good teams from great ones isn't who they lose, it's how they respond. This defense has already shown signs of resilience. They've got experience in Adam Butler. They've got raw power and untapped potential in Tyree Wilson. and they've got a system built to put their best players in positions to make plays. What matters now isn't the injury report, it's what happens next. Can this defensive front evolve? Can it adapt, shift, and still pressure quarterbacks the way it did late last season? If Butler continues to play at the level he flashed down the stretch, and Wilson finds that gear we've been waiting for, the Raiders won't just stay afloat. They'll send a message that they're deeper than people think, that they're tougher than anyone expected, and that even without their star in the middle, they're ready to punch first. In a league where every snap matters, and every injury tests your foundation, the next few weeks will define more than just this defense. They'll define the Raiders' identity. One thing's certain, this story is far from over.